Okay, so we've got Jane from New York, we've got Kate over from Victoria, and Coralie in New Zealand, and Stan's with me in Perth. Well, not with me, he's the other end of Perth, but you know, we're a lot closer than you guys are. You're spread out across the world, which is, I always find that quite exciting to think that we're chatting from people from around the world.
Isn't it? It's very exciting.
So Kate's just been going through some stuff. She was just telling us about taking off with a caravan with kids in the car, and the roof came off the caravan with the wind. So pretty scary times there, and something that certainly challenged your philosophy and your bounce back ability, if there is such a word. So without further ado, we'll get going on the 5 major pieces to the life puzzle. As you can tell, I'm feeling a bit better. Last week I could barely speak. I came back from Bali with man flu, which I have to tell you is worse than the COVID. It certainly hit both Joe and I a lot harder. And this is the first morning I've woken up where I can actually breathe through my nose, which is a great start to the day. And I didn't spend half my shower coughing things up into the shower, like half my lungs. So it's a good feeling when it's a bit like coming out of a hangover, you know, and you start, you know, that feeling when you've been hungover and you think, oh, is this ever going to end? And then suddenly you feel good again. So here we are, dawn of a brand new day here in Perth, and Jim Rohn's little book. It's only a small book, but wow, he's a powerful speaker, isn't he, and a powerful writer. I love listening to his audio tapes. You know, it's timeless. It really is timeless stuff. And I think probably a lot of it is because, as he describes himself as a farm boy from Idaho, he relates a lot to nature and the seasons. In another book he wrote about the 4 seasons, you know, that things are like nature, that we do have adversity, but then we have good times as well. And the key being to prepare yourself mentally, psychologically, and get busy during the times when everything's going fine, is when you've got to get busy and make sure you're ready for when things are not going so well. And he talks about things like the ants, for example, how the ants get busy during the summer months, getting ready for winter. They know it's coming. It comes every year, you know, like the seasons. Good follows bad, bad follows good. You know, it's part of life. We have ups and downs. So the biggest defining thing, he says, in how your life is going to work out is all about your philosophy, the way you think about things. So we covered last week sort of the first half of the book, and I think we probably spent most of our time talking about that philosophy, because your philosophy of life is how you choose to look at things is really what determines the kind of results you're going to get out of life. Anyone disagree with that? Anyone wish to add anything to that? So he said that these are the same fundamentals in life that have always been the fundamentals, the same keys to success and happiness that have existed for at least the last 6,000 years of recorded history. So there's nothing new. There's basically life. The way we view life and the way we cope with adversity is no different to the ancient Egyptians or the ancient Greeks or any of those people. We all have the same struggles. We all have the same inner turmoil, the same thoughts and questions about, you know, are we good enough, or am I happy, or where did I come from, or where am I going? All those kind of questions. There's existential questions that we ask ourselves. And he talks about the fact that our beliefs, we tend to go and look for things that reinforce our beliefs. There's a word for that. It's escapes me. When you predetermine what you want to believe, and then you go looking for evidence to support that belief. So we tend to, our beliefs get partly locked in by our upbringing, by our parents, by our family, by our values that they've instilled into us. And that then, confirmation bias, that's the words I was looking for. We tend to go looking for ideas that reinforce what we already believe, and we tend to reject the things that don't fit in with that belief system. So a key thing that Jim Rohn talks about, and I think this is quite common in quite a few of the books that we've been reading, certainly with people like what's the name, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. And he talks about, we are not our thoughts, we are the observer of our thoughts. And so when you realize that your thoughts are not actually you, they're just what's going on in your brain, largely to try and protect you, to try and keep you safe. It's the biggest thing. It goes back to our dinosaur days, and making sure we don't get attacked by a T-Rex or something, that we can outrun it, we can go and hide in the cave from it. That the biggest thing that hits us in our philosophy is our need to feel safe, and that's the fundamental that hasn't changed throughout history. But sometimes that need to feel safe can sort of wreck things for us, because we might be about to make a public speech, for example, and then suddenly our brain is telling us this is not safe. You're going to be faced with all these eyes in front of you looking at you, and danger. That's the same feeling that they got when caveman was looking out in the bush and saw a T-Rex coming through the jungle. So how we think about things. And his great analogy that he uses consistently through a lot of his speeches is about the wind. And when the winds change, what counts is how we set the sail. The winds will always be there, the winds of adversity. We're all going to have ups and downs in life, but how we respond is the way we set the sail. So when the winds change, we must change. And here's a great line, especially for Kate. How quickly and responsibly we react to adversity is far more important than the adversity itself. Once we discipline ourselves to understand this, we will finally and willingly conclude that the great challenge of life is to control the process of our own thinking. Very powerful. So we can either let the adversity crush us and make us think, why me, and go into victim mode, and life's not fair, and all that sort of stuff that we come out with. Or we can go, and it's easy for me to say, it's not my caravan roof that's blown off, but we all have our challenges. We all have the things that hit us out of the blue that we didn't expect to happen. I had one of my best staff just suddenly decide that her studies are getting too much for her this week, and so she's quitting. And I'm trying to talk her into staying and cutting back what she's doing, but that's just out of the blue, something you don't need. But you have to go, well, that's life in business, that these things happen. People are focusing on their own lives, and that's the most important thing to them. So we can review and we can refine our philosophy. We can acknowledge when we can ask ourselves questions like, is this a good way to look at this situation? Is this helping me? Tony Robbins talks about asking better questions of yourself. It's a key thing. When things go wrong, you can stop and ask yourself, how am I choosing to look at this? Is this the best way for me moving forwards to empower me, or is this going to slow me down? And we have Yanni joining us as well. Good morning, Yanni.
Sorry, I'm late. I'm still at work. That's fine, but I'll be listening.
That's okay. That's okay. Good to have you with us. So the other thing he talks about, the power of positive influence, about hanging out with positive people like yourselves, like you guys, and the key to find unique human beings whose personalities and achievements stimulate, fascinate, and inspire us, and then strive to assimilate their best qualities. In this lifetime, there is no greater project than the deliberate development of our own lives. So this is stuff we were covering, talking about philosophy, about becoming a good observer of everything that's going on around us, and how we're choosing to look at it, or how we're choosing to respond to it. Something he mentions quite a lot is about the importance of keeping a journal, so that you can reflect on things, so that you can, more important than anything, ask yourself, what did I get from the day? Well, what did I get from this week? What did I get from this month? What lessons did I learn? Which people inspired me, and why? Questions like that that actually are going to stimulate your thinking and make you grow as an individual. And he's a big believer in that. He talks a lot about journaling and about keeping a record of your life, that a life worth living is a life worth documenting. And it is interesting when you go back and read the thoughts that you had several years ago and see how has it changed, or what were you dealing with then, and maybe it seemed really huge and important at the time, and now with the fullness of time you look back on it and go, was it really that important? Did it really make that much difference? Why was I getting stressed about that? Those kinds of questions. So we're constantly making choices and decisions and selections about what's important to focus on. And a key word as well is discipline. He talks about discipline, and that's what makes the difference. By a few simple disciplines practiced every day, the key thing the difference between people who succeed at what they set out to achieve and people who don't usually comes down to discipline. Those people are willing to do the uncomfortable things, or the things that are easy not to do. That's another big Jim Rohn philosophy, is the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. It's a big one, that, isn't it? A good example, my stepson came up with this thing a week ago that he'd suddenly decided, I don't know out of where, he'd been watching something, that planking was really good. So we've set this nightly challenge now where Joe times us and we both go into the plank position and see how long we can hold it for. And within only a week, I've gone from sort of struggling to get to a minute to last night getting to 2 minutes 50, I think it was. So it's just each day going, if I held it for, a minute and a half yesterday, I can hold it for a minute 45 today, and just keep on taking yourself in incremental stages beyond what you thought was previously possible. And so your mind, it's all about your mind. I've just done a freediving course in Bali, and it's all about your thoughts and what you choose to focus on. And even your body is telling you things. You can override it. You can go, yeah, I know my arms are getting a bit wobbly, or I'm a bit uncomfortable at the moment, or if you're freediving, it's about holding your breath. Everything in your body is telling you, I need to breathe now. But you can hold it a bit longer and know that you've got enough air to keep you going. You just have to shut off the thoughts that are going on in your head and say, no, I'm not listening to you. That's a load of nonsense. I've got this. I'm on top of it. And you push yourself that little bit further, that little bit further, a little bit further. And then over time, it's amazing how you can grow. You couldn't do it in one leap. You couldn't go planking from struggling like Joe did the first one. She struggled to get 30 seconds. She won't mind me telling you that. To go from 30 seconds to 2.5 minutes would seem ridiculously impossible, but to go from 30 seconds to 45 is not so much of a stretch. To go to a minute is not so much of a stretch. So this incremental change in thinking in what we think we can achieve is a big factor in life. And it's sort of the same with a lot of the goals that we set for ourselves. If you climb a mountain, you can see the next peak, and you can go that little bit further. Years ago, I climbed Uluru in the middle of Australia, and you just get to the top of this peak and you think, I must be nearly at the top, and then you go, there's another peak, and then there's another peak, and it goes on and on. But it's a huge feeling of accomplishment when you do something like that and get to the very top. So, and he says failure is largely a function of neglect. He's also a big believer in studying people where it didn't work. What went wrong? So you can learn as much from failure as you can from success. And a lot of that's about self-confidence. So our beliefs then shape our attitudes. So chapter 2 was all about attitude. We talked about that. Having the right attitude is an essential prerequisite for success and happiness. And something I've always believed with hiring staff is you recruit people for their attitude and you train them for the skills they need, rather than hiring them for the skills and then you find you've got an employee who's got a terrible attitude. That's not going to work out, I can tell you that. So Look out for people with good attitudes and surround yourself with those people. And this age-old thing, do we live in the past? Do we worry and feel guilty about everything that happened, what we could have, should have, would have done? Or do we worry about what might happen in the future and get all stressed about all the things that could go wrong and what if this happens and what if that happens? Or do we live in the present? Do we live in the now? Because that's where our life actually exists, is in the now. And it's the choices we're making right now that shape our future. Past is gone, you can learn from it, you can't change it. And they say the present is a gift, and that's why they call it the present. Ah, corny, isn't it? But it's true. So there's another line I've highlighted in orange. Now that you know, people, if I highlight it in orange, that means it's important, right? So the current moment is where our better future begins. The past gave us a wealth of memories and experiences, and the present gives us a chance to use them wisely. So we can either learn from the past, or we can keep repeating these same old mistakes. Universe will keep bashing you over the head with the same mistake till you learn the lesson, just in case you didn't get it the first time around. Anyone ever experienced that? I know I have. And then he talks a lot about creative visualization. He might not use those exact words. I can't remember if he does or not in the book, but when he's talking about the future, our attitude about the future depends on our ability to see the future. Each of us has the inherent ability to dream, design, and experience the future through the power of an imaginative inner eye. Whatever the mind has the capacity to imagine, it also has the ability to create. Anyone want to share any great future that they're creating at the moment? Any thoughts on that? While I just blow my nose, excuse me. See, there you go. I thought I'm getting better each day, but I'm still not 100% over this thing. Okay, no comments.
I missed it.
Well,
Oh, here we go.
oh, go ahead, Kate. Go ahead, Kate.
I missed it. The phone call came through and it muted. Create, visualization, dream, design, create. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Someone's really trying to ring. So I'll just mute myself.
No, that's okay. Did you want me to repeat that line?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Each of us has the inherent ability to dream, design, and experience the future through the power of an imaginative inner eye. Whatever the mind has the capacity to imagine, it also has the ability to create. So that's the key part, is whatever the mind has the capacity to imagine, it also has the ability to create. So anything that we want to create starts with our thoughts. Any invention, you know, the computer you're looking at now, the chair you're sitting on, started with somebody's thought about, why don't we have a chair to sit on? It'd be more comfortable than sitting on the floor, that kind of thing. So it starts with somebody having an idea and then a thought and then wondering, how could I solve that problem? So we can design our own lives based on how we want them to be, which is not always easy to see when things are going wrong. But if you can hold that as an inherent belief that whatever happens to you, it's how you deal, it's how you think about what happens to you, it's how you choose to respond is what's going to shape your future. You can either let the bad circumstance crush you, or you can define what you want instead and then set about creating that. Somebody else was going to add something. Was it Yanni, or did I? Oh, it was John.
No, it was me. Yeah. I think, though, I think it's striking a balance with thinking about the future too much, or can cause anxiety. You know, it's sort of like looking at the past creates depression, looking at the future is anxiety provoking, and that's why we live in the now. finding joy now. So I have really adopted that, but I think again it's about striking a balance, because you have to plan, you have to be a bit of a visionary for your life. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Don't spend all your life living in that future that hasn't happened yet or may not happen. But
Yeah, because it may not come out the way you think. It may be a version of it.
Yeah, it may not come out the way you think, but it may still come out. So, the research they've done on people like, we talked about this last week about Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, people who were prisoners of war, and they found this again with the Americans in Vietnam and Korea and so on, that the ones who could imagine themselves coming through that hell and having a life beyond that were the ones who tended to survive, because they were able to focus on a future that they wanted to create rather than their present circumstances, which were obviously less than ideal. So whatever you're going through, it doesn't mean that you live all your life in the future. You live your life in the present, and you be grateful for what you have now. And gratitude is another big key, that the things you really want more of, be grateful for what you have at the moment. If you want a bigger house, be grateful for the house you've got now, and then focus on designing the house that you want, see it in your mind's eye what you want, and then have a plan of how you're going to go about getting it, but live in the now and be grateful for what you have. That's the key thing. So, yep.
I was just going to say, I 30 years ago when I read Louise Hay for the first time, and if you're familiar with her, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I thought it was so interesting, the concept of, she would talk about how she would go to the mailbox and get her mail, and she would look at her mail and the bills, and she would thank the bills for being there, because it provided, and it was such a cyclical thing that she could pay it, and it kept being provided for, and I just thought, wow, what a concept,
You're right. Louise Hay, I was listening to an audio of hers recently when we were driving back from down south on quite a long drive, and she really was quite a groundbreaker, wasn't she? Was
she ever
a pioneer in a lot of the books that you're reading today are saying the same stuff that Louise Hay was saying decades ago.
Yes.
Very, very powerful. Yeah. So that one about the bills, the point about being grateful that you've had that service. If you get an electricity bill, it means you've had the electricity, you've had the use of it. So be thankful for it. And it's quite a switch to go. Electrical joke there. To get my dad joke in for the morning. I know it's shocking. Oh, there we go. There's another one. So the fact that you've had the use of the electricity and now you get to pay for it. Wasn't it good that they let you have it without having to pay up front for it? So it's just a subtle shift in how you choose to look at things. You can either get depressed, oh no, I've got an electricity bill, or you can go, isn't that nice of them to let me have the use of that electricity, and now I pay for it. And I can pay for it. It's even better, isn't it? It's the worst thing is when you get the bill and you can't pay it. But that's just temporary. So do you choose then to figure out how you can add more value to yourself so that you can earn more and therefore be able to pay those bills without any challenge? So, which leads me to another thing that I highlighted in orange, which was the moral of this story is that whatever life has handed us, whether it is 1 talent or 100, remember the story of the talents in the Bible, it is our responsibility to do something with what we have been given. It's up to us. We all get talents. Do we use them, or do we just sit quietly on them and not do anything with them? And it's the process of who we become on the journey is what makes us valuable. It's as we grow, it's what we learn, it's what we add to ourselves. And you know, the thing about adversity is when you've dealt with a few things in the past, you know you can deal with things. And so when the awful thing happens that you didn't want to happen, you can go, well, I've dealt with other stuff, I'll deal with this. I'll just take it in my stride, I'll figure it out. We'll get through this. So chapter 3 went on to activity, which was about not just the planning and the setting, but actually doing something towards the goal that we've decided to go after. That's a big thing, isn't it? Just wishing for $1 million won't put $1 million in your bank account. You actually have to do something. Wishing for a better body, but never doing any exercise won't get there. You know, wishing to lose weight, but still gorging on pies and, like, I'm a bad one to speak about this, but you know, all the bad stuff that you know you probably shouldn't eat, but you still do. Well, you're not going to lose the weight then, are you? So the activity is what you want. When you want the goal, you have to be willing to do something towards its attainment. Chapter 4 was results. So this is we've done the first 3 chapters last week. We're going to finish the last 2 this week. Results. So everything that we're doing is determining our future results. And that's why he talks a lot about discipline, because for things to change, we must change. That is one of life's fundamentals. If you're not getting the results you want out of life, then look at what are you doing that is giving you the results you're currently getting. What choices have you been making that's led to where you are today? A key fundamental about this is taking responsibility for your own life. You are where you are today because of all the choices that you've made. And you might feel that's harsh or unfair, because sometimes life makes choices for us that throws adversity at us, throws things at us. You know, you might be driving along the road one day and then suddenly another car crashes into you. Is that your fault? Could you have done anything about it? No, probably not. But you did choose to be on the road in that car at that time, that day. So, like it or not, you put yourself in that position. Yeah, you didn't choose to have another car hit you, but then what happens after that is how you pick yourself back up, how you get back in the car or get back on the horse. You know that old saying, get back on the horse. It's how you respond to what life throws at you. We all get stuff happen to us. And we talked last week about, you know, if you've got a sore knee and someone says, oh yeah, but what about John? He's got a broken leg. You know, that's much worse than your sore knee. Yes, that's true. And I sympathize. Poor old John's got a broken leg. I feel sorry for John. But my knee still hurts. You know, so we're all concerned with our situation. But sometimes it is good to put it in perspective. My mother, who lived to be 100, always used to say, you know, there's always, I shouldn't complain. There's always a lot of folks worse off than me. And that was her way of just kind of going, I'll just brush it aside. You know, her leg could have been falling off and she'd be like, oh, well, somebody else has got no legs, you know. So she was like that. She just would always bounce back. So success must be attracted, not pursued. There's an interesting statement, hey? Personal value is the magnet that attracts all good things into our lives. The greater our value, the greater our reward. Yes, Jane.
You know, I firmly believe that we don't attract what we want. We attract who we are.
Oh, yes. Go
You
on.
know? Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it's been, I think if you just look at your life, you can want and want and want and desire, but if, you know, it's sort of like if you've ever talked to someone who said, I'm single and I would like to meet someone really terrific, and this is the list of things that I would like for this person to possess. And it's like, well, do you possess those features? And if you don't, then what are you thinking that you would attract? You know, a 5-star person when you're maybe being a 3-star person. You know, so along those lines. And one of the things that I want to share, and I don't think I've shared it here. If I have, just tell me I have, and I will shut right up. But I think it was like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I had contracted Lyme. I don't know if any of you have been lucky enough to have Lyme, but I was pretty sick with it for many months. And I'm a pretty active person, and I would go from the sofa to the bed to the sofa. And this is not the way of Jane. And I had an epiphany one day. I kind of did a Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning epiphany. I was getting very depressed because my body was not responding to the medicine. My body was, you know, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe my body was failing me. So I remember looking out the window. It was a beautiful day in, I don't know, July or August, as it is in New York. And I remember knowing it's a beautiful day. Why can't I look at this day as a wonderful day? And it just like, it was like a rush, like of just being and knowingness came over me. And I said, you know what? It really is a beautiful day. It's a tremendous day. I don't have to be depressed. I don't have to suffer. Suffering is an option. You know, I can be in discomfort, pain, but I've been suffering and I don't want to suffer anymore. And it was like, oh my God, it was like I won the lottery, you know? So yeah, I'm just so grateful for you know, it's almost like all the reading I had done over the years kind of culminated, and I had that epiphany, you know, like being the sum total of what you've kind of sopped up with your brain all those years. Well, why don't you go ahead and put it into good use, you know? So.
Yes, very good point, Jane. You reminded me of my mother talking then, actually, because that was the kind of thing she would say, you know, oh, this stupid leg of mine is giving me pain, but I'm not going to let it get me down, you know, that sort of stuff. She would always just have that attitude of, it doesn't matter, I'm going through stuff, but I'll just have to get through it and do the best I can. And just as you were speaking that, I was reminded of this part here, that we all have opportunity mixed with difficulty. All of us have times of illness in addition to years of health. The storms come up on the rich as well as the poor. So there's nothing that we have. Okay, we might have a particular type of disease, but somebody else has got some other type of disease. You know, we've all got something at some stage in our life that we have to deal with. None of us get through the whole of our life very rarely in perfect health. I don't know if you know any of those people. They're kind of freaks of nature, but I can't think of any that I've met. Even one who used to sell health products and was a long distance athlete, ex-brother-in-law of mine, he still used to get sick. And I remember my father used to say, well, all that training and all that, you know, supplements and everything he was taking, he still got flu or whatever, you know. So none of us are completely protected or sheltered from the winds of change, the winds of adversity. And it doesn't matter whether you're rich or whether you're poor, you're still going to have the challenges. And isn't that often the case? We see these high profile people, and if you haven't seen this drivel that's been on television recently, and I've not watched it deliberately, but the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard fiasco that's been going on. And, you know, it's like, does anyone really care what was going on and who said what to who in their marriage? And it just seems so trivial when you've got other stuff going on in the world, you know, wars in Ukraine and floods and disasters and all that sort of thing. We all get stuff. We all have relationship issues. We all have health issues. We're all going to be challenged at different times in our life by different things, not in the same order and certainly not to the same extent, but we're all going to have stuff to deal with. So whatever happens, he says, happens to us all. The only difference is our approach to the things that happen. It's not what happens that determines the quality of our lives. It is what we choose to do about what happens. So Jane just nailed it there. That shift you talked about, was it that rapid when once you made the decision to think about it differently, it changed your life that quickly?
It did. It really did. I think it's because I'd consumed so many spiritual guru like self-help books, and I had it all stored in there, and I had like a download of sorts. Yeah. Like, you know, like the computers that we are. And I pressed a button and I said, wow, that feels good. Oh yeah, I'm adopting that. Come, you know, get over here, you. You know, it's like, here is the new and improved Jane, and I'm not going back no matter what. And I also realized that it's because we tell ourselves these stories, things like, oh, well, this shouldn't be happening to me. And it's like, well, sorry, who do you think it should be happening to? No one ever thinks anything bad should be happening to them. But we have these stories that we tell ourselves in error, and it makes us impatient. Oh, I have to get rid of this because I'm me and I'm special. It's like, well, yeah, you are, but so is the rest of the world. And just take a seat, take a number. I don't know, wait your turn. How about it? And I thought, what good can I do? What can I catch up on while I'm in this bed for one more day, one more week, one more month? And I started thinking of things that I'll just books on Audible, and I'll just blow it out of the water with it. You know, so that's what I did, and it really helped.
Thank you, Jane. That's great. That's absolutely in keeping with what we're talking about in this chapter. It really is. It's as simple or as difficult as making that decision and following up that decision with action. So this chapter, all about results, is a follow-on from the previous: beliefs, attitude, action. And he talks about in this chapter about if things are not going right. If it's so easy to get caught into what he calls a negative spiral. You know, when things are going wrong and you start to feel sorry for yourself and you start to adopt that victim mentality and why me, and this isn't fair, and it's, you know, I shouldn't be sick like this, or I shouldn't be broke like this, or whatever it is, the challenge you're going through. And he says, and I've highlighted this one, but there is a solution for those whose lives are caught up in this negative spiral. By going to work on our attitude, we put ourselves in a better position to begin the process of taking action. From increased activity, we can produce new results. From these early results, our self-confidence will once again begin to grow. And as our confidence increases, we push ourselves into new activities which produce new results, and that improves our attitude even more. Suddenly, what was once a life spinning out of control is a life headed towards the pull of the future. It begins with doing whatever is necessary to change our attitude, the beginning point of all human progress and achievement. So powerful stuff, eh? If it is to be, it's up to me. I don't know who said that. It's one of those old sayings that I've got locked in from years of reading books like this as well. And you're right, Jane. When you did exactly the right thing when you changed your attitude by filling yourself with empowering and positive and spiritual books, because that lifted you up, and then you could change your attitude towards your illness, and then the illness went away or got under control. Whatever. I don't know if it ever completely goes away with Lyme. Doesn't it come back at you at some stage if you? Is it one of those? Is it caused by a tick? Is that what Lyme disease starts?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't have it once. I had it twice within a 3-year period. And it was like, you got to be kidding me, because at least the kind of Lyme that I had, it was, and I've heard grown men say, I couldn't walk across the floor. You know, people had to feed me. It was, you know, so debilitating. And it's like, what? And your head hurts. It's excruciating. And then it's just a hideous kind of thing, you know. But can I also say that, you know, this is sort of Joe Dispenza style thinking. His book, You Are the Placebo.
Yep.
I had a very interesting thing happen to me. I was going to a couple of different doctors. You know, I was even a part of a research group out of California. And I was like really desperate for answers because I just wasn't functioning well. And I went to an immunologist about an hour from my house. And it's amazing. I had another light bulb moment going to him, because he said to me, he said, "You've been on doxycycline for 7 months?" He said, I've looked at all 125 pages of your medical records. And he said, you have to get off that. He said, the only reason why doxycycline is working for you now, he said, there is no tick illness in you. He said, it's simply acting as an anti-inflammatory. And he said many other things too. And he made such sense that within a week, like, I started feeling better. I got off the doxycycline. He was telling me different things. And it was like, it was just this little bit of a shift. And it's like, oh my God, I am the placebo.
Yeah.
You know, and so I found that so fascinating. Sometimes people can be the catalyst for just by words or sentences that they say, the way they communicate, new information that you get. It's almost like the point of power can be right in this minute. You don't even know it. And boom. And it's like, so I've just totally adopted life happens between my ears, period.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And for those who has everyone heard of Joe Dispenza or aware of him? So he basically he's become a successful author and an international speaker. I think what the starting point was is he had a really bad back injury, wasn't it? And he basically was told, you're probably never going to walk again, I think, was, if I remember correctly. And he refused to accept that, and he basically healed himself with the power of his mind and doing what Jane's done, reading positive books and filling himself with positive inspiration and taking action and doing whatever he had to do in terms of physio and all those sorts of things, but basically healed himself. I've just been reading, I'm still reading I haven't had much time for reading lately, work commitments, but that's something I've got to work on. Reading Happy by Turia Pitt, who was a long distance runner who got caught in a bushfire in Australia in the middle of this ultra marathon, and got, well, basically died on the operating table. She had such extreme burns to her body, and it's an incredible journey of somebody fighting back and, you know, refusing to accept that was it, that her life was over, or that she was going to be horribly disfigured and spend the rest of her life as a victim. And she's turned herself around. Yeah, she doesn't look as glamour model material as what you would have perhaps said before on, you know, and yet when you see someone who's got those scars, you only see that the first time you look at them, and then after that you see the person. And she is now a motivational speaker and an incredible human being, with her story of how she's used what's happened to her to inspire other people that they can cope with adversity, they can come through just about anything, you know. So it's powerful stuff. So going on from Joe Dispenza and what Jane was talking about there, how far should we reach? Again, Jim Rohn loves talking about nature, and he talks about this such a great, simple illustration of the point. A tree. How high does a tree grow? As high as it can. A tree doesn't go to half its potential size and go, okay, that's it, that'll do, that's enough, good, thanks very much, I'm done. That'll be big enough for me. Now, a tree keeps on pushing towards the sky. It keeps on pushing its roots down as far as it can. And even when you chop it back, what happens? It just goes again, doesn't it? So how far should we reach? As high as we can, as far as we can, as fast as we can, as best as we can. Become as much as we can. How do we do that? Through hanging out with the right people, through reading the right books, through working on ourselves, through realizing it's a journey. None of us are perfect. We're all going to stuff up. No matter how many positive books you read, you're still going to stuff up. But then the positive books give you the tools to go, hang on, I didn't handle that very well, did I? I didn't say the right thing there. I didn't do the right thing there. I thought about that in a really stupid, disempowering way. How can I change that? So our ultimate life objective should be to create as much as our talent and ability and desire will permit. To settle for doing less than we could do is to fail in this worthiest of undertakings. Years ago, I watched an interview with Kevin Costner and talking about his life. And he said, you know, the things when you're on your deathbed, the things you'll regret is all the things you didn't do, the songs you didn't listen to, the events you didn't go to, or the parties you didn't have, all the stuff you didn't do but could have done. That's what you'll regret. So live life to the full, live it to the max, do what you can, do as much as you can, enjoy as much as you can, which leads perfectly, segues into the last chapter, which is lifestyle. And lifestyle is how we choose to live and how we design our lives. It is a sophisticated understanding of the difference between life's trinkets and life's treasures. And I love this. I just highlighted this. I love this. The price of admission to a fabulous sunset is still free. And that's something when Joe and I moved to this house, we have this magnificent view where we get amazing sunsets off in the distance to the coast. And we said, we made a pact when we moved to this house, we're never going to take this view for granted. We're going to go and get a glass of red wine, you know, not every night necessarily, but certainly regularly, and go and sit on our deck and just sit and look at that view and just chat, you know, and take it in and be present. Because it's one of the things that sold us the house was this magnificent view. So we're never going to take it for granted, because, you know, it's part of our lifestyle. It's part of reminding ourselves of being grateful for what we have. So it's about finding the meaning in those simple things. And he says, and I've highlighted this in orange, people, lifestyle is really nothing more than the art of doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Good quote, eh? Lifestyle is really nothing more than the art of doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Our lifestyle communicates a clear message about who we are and how we think. It's not an automatic reward. It's something that has to be practiced and studied. Like he says, the things that are easy to do are easy not to. It'd be easy. It's easy for us to go and sit and watch the sunset. It would also be easy not to bother. And each sunset is one that you'll never get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. You only get so many in your lifetime, don't you? So learn to be happy with what you have while you strive for what you want. So there's that balance between the present and the future, is being happy where you are right now, right in this moment, but still striving for more. Like the tree. The tree's happy at how high it is right now, but it's still trying to grow. It's still trying to reach for the sky. So wherever you are, be there. This age-old philosophy about being present. It's easy not to be there. I'm getting all those pinging noises on the back of my computer. So I love this quote too. Letting life touch us. There is a world of difference between going to Paris and experiencing Paris. Going is a basic physical activity. Experiencing is a rich emotional event. To experience life, we must let it touch us. But not just the positive experiences. We must also be touched by the sorrows and the sadness, by the losses and the longings. Emotions enrich our lives and create for us a special uniqueness in terms of both who we are and how we live. So even the things that go seemingly wrong for us, this is one of my old philosophies that I've had for a long time, is that we're putting a label on something as a bad experience, right? But what if later on that bad experience turned out to be the very thing that needed to happen in order to send you in a different direction, or meet a different person, or have a different experience that you wouldn't have had the bad thing not happened? So that bad thing that we're calling a bad thing, we're labeling it as a bad thing, could turn out in some bizarre way to be the best thing that ever happened to you. That's powerful, isn't it? Because while we're busy labeling it as a bad thing and an awful event and a difficult situation, we're not allowing for the possibility that maybe that's just what the universe had for us, in line for us, to send us on a different path. You know, maybe I certainly went through this when my marriage broke up. If I hadn't have lost my second marriage, well, my first marriage, but my second marriage, if that hadn't have broken up, which was awful for me at the time, I wouldn't now be with Joe, who I've been happily married with for 15 years. So, and we wouldn't have traveled the world together and done all the amazing things that we've done. But I didn't know that at the time. At the time, that marriage breakup was a disaster. It was awful. You know, it was one of the worst things that ever happened to me. And yet now I can go, well, I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad I went through that. You know, it was painful at the time, but it paved the way for a whole new lifestyle, a whole new direction. Things like being a scuba diver. I wouldn't have done that probably had I still been with that ex-wife. And, you know, gone on diving adventures around the world with Joe, and traveled to Egypt and all sorts of places. I've been in the pyramids and been through the Amazon and done Machu Picchu and all those things that, you know, none of that would have even possibly been, some of those things wouldn't have been on my radar because the previous partner wasn't that adventurous, wouldn't have done some of those things. She was a traveler for sure. So there was that in common, but there was some of those activities she would never have undertaken. So it just shows you that no matter what's going on, it's up to you to define your lifestyle. It's up to you to define how you want your life to be and to strive for it, but at the same time be grateful for what you have. So that is our legacy, really is. He says, let us begin this very day the process of creating a wealth of experiences and memories that will endure in the hearts of those we love long after we are gone. All the more reason to document it, isn't it? That maybe your great-great-grandchildren might read it one day and find out, you know, what an incredible life you had, and that you had adversity just the same as they're going through adversity. Their adversity, of course, is going to be different to ours in some ways. You wonder what kind of world they're going to inherit. I've got grandchildren now, and I think, what's the world heading towards? How are they going to cope with it all? But we all, you know, our grandparents would have said the same thing.
Well, I think I've had this conversation with many people of late in the last couple of years that I kind of feel like I stand firmly that today's, I'd much rather live in 2022 than any other time. I feel like never in the history of mankind have we been more evolved, more conscious, more filled with possibility than we are now. And I think that it's a better world than it's ever been. Even, I think there's like the pendulum swings, and sometimes things get worse before they get better, because that's just the pendulum swinging. And but I just think there's always a opportunity for tremendous growth, and I feel like we're in it. You know, 20, 40, 100 years ago, we wouldn't be talking to each other. This wouldn't exist for us.
Yep.
And it's made a difference in my life. It's really elevated, going to different classes, meeting different people. It's changed my life. And so I am like totally hopeful for a better tomorrow. I think we're going in a good direction, even when things get out of whack, wherever you want to call it.
Yep. Yes, for sure. So,
Can I just touch on?
yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you for everything you've shared, because it's really, really helped today. Thank you so much, Tony. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease probably 5 years ago, and I started to change my ways, change my health, change my habits, change my eating styles. There's a lot of things that I've changed to, you know, create the lifestyle or the life that I desire. A lot of your points have really helped today, and I've written notes everywhere. It's very true. I just wanted to say, on the one where you said, just trying to remember it, what Tony said about, I've forgotten his name, the man that wrote the book.
Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn said that basically, trying to find the little note, you create, success attracts, you attract what you like and what you want. But Jane touched on, she believed that it was attracting the mirror. And myself, I believe it's both. You attract yourself, but you also attract what you want in yourself. So for example, if you wanted to lose weight to fit into a beautiful outfit that you want, you attract that by changing your ways. And all the things that have happened in the last week, I can only be grateful that no one was hurt. And I can only be grateful that I saw the future and I've sorted it all out. And basically, it's been for the best. The outcome was for the better. And we got a massive payout and the caravan was on its way out. So now we can just travel in style, I think, upgrade. And I saw all of this unfolding, and all I could be throughout the whole process was gratitude, or grateful. And everything you've said has just been amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
What was it that brought you to the call today?
Desperation.
There you go.
No, not in that way. I
Good
mean,
for you, Kate.
Good to know that I'm attracting desperation. Well done.
no, I needed some inspiration of guidance of any form, and it's all just been absolutely amazing. I was actually on the phone to a counsellor this morning saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what direction. And she wasn't much help at all. She just said, you know, how about you have a shower? I was like, okay, thank you for that great wisdom. And now just being on this video, it's 10-folded on the wisdom shared, the value, the tips. I have written down every book you've suggested. I'm going to download every single one in Audible. And I'm going to get the highlighter, cut and paste and highlight areas. And I'm just going to get on it, get back on the horse, you know, and see the silver lining in all of this. It's for the best, and we're all still alive. So yeah, this has been amazingly awesome. Thank you.
Oh, that's great, Kate.
Have you with us? And are you on? I've got a Facebook page there called Creating Your Ideal Life.
I'm not sure. There's so many. I'm just jumping on and off. And
Okay, so that's
I'll
one.
get back on it.
If you connect on that, or even with me personally, I think we were Facebook friends. I can't remember, but if you haven't, then please connect with me.
I've created a few new profiles. So.
I've got
Kate,
a.
how do we find you on Facebook, Kate?
I'm trying to remain me. I'm trying to forget the past. I've been on Facebook for 15 odd years, I think, and I'm still Kate. Kate with a C. So
Right.
my surname is with a C, all one word, with AC.
Kate with a C. That's what your new Facebook profile is it?
That's me to a T. And
Excellent.
I had the school trying to stalk me, some of the mums attacking me, so I changed my name. And then I had an old stalker boyfriend find me, so I changed my name again. And
Oh my goodness.
trying to just remain me without letting anyone take that away from me. But originally, when I went to Year 9 camp when I was little, they said, what's your name? And I said, Kate with a C. And
Excellent. Love it. Well,
That's great.
why I was just asking is I've got a website as well, which is tonyinman.com.au, and I have a list of books on there of my recommended reading, and we're working our way actually through the best ones, or the ones that have had the most, I feel, have had the most influence on me, and I'm sharing them as we go through them to hopefully pass on some of the wisdom that I've been blessed to be exposed to, and you know, in some way they're going to help other people. So just to conclude with Jim Rohn's book today, and thank you for those words, Kate. Our lives are filled with opportunities for experiencing a new level of happiness and sophistication and appreciation. All that is required is a change of mind and a decision to begin experiencing it all now. And as we demonstrate our new commitment to take full measure from even the smallest opportunities that come our way, life will see to it that far greater experiences than we ever dreamed will soon become our certain reward. He does have a concluding chapter It's called Conclusion. And just to summarize that, it basically says our ultimate success or failure depends on three fundamental things. One is what we know. Two is how we feel about what we know. And three is what we do with and about all that we feel and know. So what we know, how we feel about what we know, and what we do with and about all that we feel and know. And in that, it's confronting our comfort zones to push ourselves beyond previous limitations. That life is not a practice session. We've only got a certain amount of time to get it done, whatever it is you want to get done. So think about what you want to get done. Write your bucket list. And there you go. The 5 major pieces to the life puzzle. You can define and create the life that you want. And it starts today, right now. So thank you all for joining us. It's been amazing. And we'll be going on next week to the next book we decided to talk about. We had that discussion a few weeks ago, is The Infinite Game. Didn't we, Stan? Is that right? Simon Sinek. So that's the one we will be reviewing next. So we'll start there with, I would think, probably the first 2 chapters. That's usually what we try and get through.
Is this more of a continuation on the why?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of his
Okay.
later books, more recent books. He is the author. We did one, Kate, a few weeks ago, Start With Why. And it was one that somebody, I can't remember who mentioned it, but it was certainly a book that I've read recently and I found it quite useful. So we'll go on to that one. And then open to any other suggestions that if people want to review a certain book. I'm finding it's very useful because even though I've read all these books, it's making me reread them and pick out the really salient points and reaffirm those key lessons. And then we get to share our experiences around that, you know, how it's impacted on us and so on as well. So thank you all for joining us. Have a fantastic day wherever you are, or evening, night, whatever time of day it is for you. And we'll be here again, same time next week. So join us if you can.
Wonderful. See you then. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.